Good morning. For those of you I have not met, my name is Kaylin Risvold. I am the President and CEO of the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce, and just really wanted to thank you for attending today. I did want to let you know we are going to record the session so that we can put it up on our YouTube and on our other sites so that people can watch it later as well. I think it's just going to be a fantastic resource. The Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce is extremely excited to offer our International Trade for Beginners workshop this afternoon. We know many of our members have their addresses here in our local community, but we just can't ignore the fact that we are part of a global economy. This pandemic has really accelerated e-commerce markets, and we need to continue to widen the lens to provide resources that support our member businesses expanding well beyond our city, our county, our state, and the U.S. border. So there's a lot going on. And the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce has been fortunate enough to enjoy a partnership with the International Trade Association of Greater Chicago for many years. We're extremely grateful to their executive director, Richard Paullin, for organizing such a power-packed group of panelists here today. So sit back and absorb all of the great resources that are going to be discussed today to help grow your business abroad. And I also do want to give a big thanks to your advocate within the Chamber, Reba Osborne. Reba is our Director of Government Affairs, helped put all of this together, and is a fantastic resource. So please make sure you are taking advantage of what all she can offer you as Chamber members if you aren't already. But that's enough from me. We want to get to the meat, we want to get to the excitement, and for that I'm going to hand it over to Reba. Thank you again, Reba and Richard.
Okay, perfect. Well, I am over the moon excited about today's event because this has been in the making since, I think, Richard, I think it was November or in December of 2019. I was at an Illinois Manufacturers conference in Chicago, and he was speaking on the USMCA as it was being negotiated in Congress, the new NAFTA that was being negotiated at the time in Congress, and was a wealth of information. I spoke with him afterwards, and then he in turn invited me, I think the same day, to come to one of his events and met some more just great people in the international trade arena. And I, at the time, like, this is something our members need, because it was just great resources. So we had talked about and done some initial planning, and then COVID hit, and then we're back to the planning back, I guess in October we started speaking again, and Richard has pulled together an amazing group of panelists today that's going to be a wealth of information. And Richard has promised me that he will also wedge in some of his golden nuggets of wisdom all during the discussion with the panelists. So I will introduce Richard Paullin, our moderator. He is the Executive Director of the International Trade Association of Greater Chicago. Richard has been the Executive Director of this organization since 1994. The association is one of the largest and most active in the U.S., with over 500 members, most of whom are small and medium-sized businesses. From April 2004 to April 2005, Mr. Paullin served as a special advisor to the manufacturing to the U.S. Under Secretary of Commerce for International Trade. In November 2001, he represented the President's Export Council as the cleared advisor to the U.S. Trade Representation for the Fourth World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference in Doha, Qatar. In 1987, he was first appointed to the Illinois District Export Council by the U.S. Secretary of Commerce. He is currently serving as his eighth term and served as the chairman from 2000 to 2018. In his newest role as executive director of the Livestock Exporters Association since 2016, he can now definitively answer the affirmative to the question, do pigs fly? So Richard, thank you so much. We're delighted to have you, and I will let you take it away.
My pleasure, Reba, and thank you for the kind introduction. Welcome, everyone. The International Trade Association is equally pleased to be partnered with the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce, and we hope to be able to do more of these as we get into this a little more. This is, of course, the International Trade Resources for Beginners program. And we have pulled together a panel of resources which are by and large free and provide truly superior export counseling to the community. The problem usually is people don't know about them. And so today we're looking to move forward in that. We have 4 speakers. The first is going to be Jean Lin. We're starting at the very local level. Jean manages the Illinois SBDC International Trade Center at the College of DuPage. Our second speaker then is Margo Markopoulos, who directs the Office of Trade and Investment at the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Affairs. And the third speaker is at the federal level, Dan Kim, who works for the U.S. Commercial Service in Chicago. Our fourth speaker is going to talk about certificates of origin. Nothing goes anywhere overseas without a certificate of origin. And so that's the lineup today. I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Jean Lin, I'm sorry. She is the program manager at the Illinois SBDC International Trade Center at the Business Development Center at the College of DuPage. How's that for a long title? With more than 10 years of international business experience emphasizing consumer products, she has successfully brought brands to new markets and driven growth across the world. With a background and focus in export strategic planning, product development, and global supply chain management, Jean brings valuable trade knowledge and diverse cultural insight to the table. Jean, the program is yours right now.
All right, thank you, Richard. Let me share my screen right now. Okay. All right, so are you seeing my screen okay?
Yep.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. My name, again, is Jean. I'm the program manager of Illinois SBDC International Trade Center at College of DuPage. As Richard mentioned, we are serving as your local export support center to, provide technical assistance to the company that are interested in exporting or, planning to start exporting. So a bit like brief introduction about our center. Oops, okay. So who we are part of the America SBDC network. So America SBDC network is the most comprehensive network that provides assistance to the small business in the country. So there are more than 1,000 locations in the U.S. and its territory. Our program is founded by Small Business Development Administration, so SBA, as well as Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, DCEO, along with the support from College of DuPage that allowed us to provide service at no cost. And we offer one-on-one advising section that is tailored to the action need of your company, and as well as the training opportunity that cover a good variety of export-related topics. Illinois International Trade Center is considered as a specialized program with 9 locations, 11 advisors, in total serving the state of Illinois. Each ITC advisor come from different background with different expertise and focus. We can provide service in multiple language, for example, along with English. So, for example, Korean, Spanish, French, and Mandarin Chinese. The mission for our network is fairly simple. We want to help our clients to see, the benefit and opportunity in exporting, and we want them to, learn how to export correctly, and most importantly, to be successful in the global market space. So here is the short list of the center from the north to the south. We have College of Lake County, and of course in the area, we have College of DuPage and Joseph Business School, ICNC, WBTC, and Greater Southwest. And in central Illinois, we have Bradley University, Champaign, and Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville. So I always try to tell my client to think me as the extension of their exporting department. The only difference is you don't need to pay for my salary, you don't have to pay for my health insurance. So we are really the free resource that you can utilize. Here are, on the screen, you can see some highlight of the service we provided. So the first one is export readiness assessment. We help company to assess your, export readiness. We try to understand your goal, identify the challenge you are facing, then put together a roadmap for you to take on. We also help with potential market identification. Again, there's like so many countries out there in the world, and you can't really tackle every of them. So we help to, we can run market research and put key information together to help the decision-making process easier. And we also help with market entry strategy and growth plan. Again, every market is different and each business is unique. We help to plan for, the strategy as well as your in-market activity. Export plan, just like, business plan is very important for starting up a business. Export plan is essential for, starting exporting. So we can help you to put it together, the plan. Export compliance is another area we can provide service. From documentation to export control. So export control are, intimidating for a lot of people, especially for newer exporter. Few things you need to know. You need to know the product you're selling. You need to know who are the buyer. You need to know the destination and the end use of the product. We can actually walk you through, the detail from the beginning, to classify your product and to determine the, license requirement to make sure your export are done correctly. And we also provide customized market research. We have database. We have access to a couple of database. It's either, state purchase a database for us or even the college database that allowed us to collect secondary data that including, trade statistic, industry report. We can run competitor analysis, market overview, regulation. We can run buyer search and do company due diligence for you. Global e-commerce is another area. I think that's really the focus area right now. Since pandemic hit, a lot of companies switch their attention to global e-commerce. So at our center, we can help you to plan for your e-commerce strategy from, platform selection, website localization strategy, and the international SEO keyword suggestion, and so that can help you to increase the online sales performance, internationally. Trade finance will be another area we can help with. So payment method, working capital, export insurance, we help identify the right product and connect you with the right resources, for example, Exim Bank, SBA, or, commercial lender. And grant and trade mission and trade show opportunity, we can help prepare for the application for Illinois State Trade and Export Promotion Grant, known as ISTEP, and we can connect you with any trade mission and trade show opportunity that's provided by our partner at OTI or U.S. Commercial Service. And the last thing is professional referral. A lot of companies come, when they start exporting, they don't know who they can work with, like us, who they can use as a freight forwarder. They don't know how to, where to find attorney that's focused on international contract. Based on your business and the actual need, we can provide a short list of vetted service provider, ranging from, attorney, logistic partner, even commercial lender. We also connect company with our partner, Illinois Department of Commerce Office of Trade and Investment, Insurance, OTI, and U.S. Commercial Service. service to utilize their in-market service to help Illinois company grow. I personally can say enough good thing about service provided by OTI and U.S. Commercial Service that you will hear from Margo and Dan shortly. So finally, here's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out. Again, no question is too small. I'm always happy to help. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Jean. That was wonderful. And it certainly points out, Jean in her presentation said that they partner with the state of Illinois, the Office of Trade and Investment, and with the U.S. Commercial Service, and that indeed is true. There are these sort of three levels of resources and export assistance, and they do work together. Our next speaker is Margo Markopoulos, who represents who is the director of the Illinois Department of Commerce Office of Trade and Investment. As the office director, she leads the department's strategies to increase exports and to attract foreign direct investment to the state through a network of 6 regional foreign offices. During her 14 years at the Department of Commerce, Margo has assisted hundreds of Illinois companies with expanding their global footprint through exports and led numerous foreign trade missions, including the state of Illinois' historic humanitarian mission to Cuba in 1999, which brought the first sitting U.S. governor to the island in over 4 decades. Margo also previously worked as an international policy consultant for Fortune 500 corporations and managed foreign business delegations to the U.S., encouraging bilateral trade. Please welcome Margo Markopoulos.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're doing well, staying warm and safe. Richard, thanks so much for that kind introduction and for helping to organize today's event with the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm so happy to join my colleagues from the SBDC and the U.S. Department of Commerce. As Richard and Jean said, we work very closely together. And basically, when you reach one of us, you're talking to all of us. Jean is a great place to start when you're thinking about starting your export journey. And then, of course, Dan and I can help fill in those blanks when you're ready to go overseas. And as Richard mentioned, I think at the beginning of the presentation, the biggest challenge we all have is really just getting the word out about our programs. So this really is a great opportunity for all of us to speak to you today. We can advance one more slide. There we go. So before I talk about our I-STEP program that Jean mentioned earlier, I want to just give you a high-level overview of the state of Illinois' international footprint. The state of Illinois is blessed with a very diverse global economy, and products are found around the world. Many of you may be avid travelers and have seen Illinois products, whether it's food items in grocery stores or agricultural machinery, medical technology. There's lots and lots of different products that you'll find around the world manufactured here in Illinois. Illinois is the 18th largest economy in the world, and last year we exported over $62 billion, supporting over 800,000 jobs. Next slide, please. Here I'd like to highlight Illinois' top export markets. Canada and Mexico, of course, are the top 2, accounting for over 40% of Illinois' exports. Australia, Germany, and China make up the top 5 ranking. And Illinois export goods include machinery, chemicals, computer products, and food products. On the next slide. The Office of Trade and Investment, and of course government loves our acronyms, so we are otherwise known as OTI, opens international markets for Illinois companies and organizations, and we wear a second hat by promoting foreign direct investment as a destination and opening markets for Illinois companies, as well as foreign companies locating here in our state. Our mission is to raise Illinois' profile as a global business leader. Some of the areas of assistance include international promotion and logistics support, market intelligence and international protocol, export assistance and education, foreign direct investment promotion and lead generation, trade mission coordination, educational exchanges, and lots of the sister state or sister organization or sister rivers and sister lakes and sister schools and all those wonderful sister agreements that many of you may be familiar with. Sister chambers, if that's something the Naperville Area Chamber would like to do. There's lots of sister arrangements that we've helped to facilitate for the state. With headquarters in Chicago and 6 offices around the world, we have offices in Canada, Mexico, Belgium, Israel, Japan, and China. We're dedicated to helping businesses grow and expand their global reach. Our domestic staff includes 5 regional trade specialists that work very closely with our foreign staff, as well as industry stakeholders, of course, to support Illinois companies and organizations with their international business development goals, and identify financial resources through our office as well as many others. In addition to OTI's local staff and our global network, the state works very closely with a number of partners, 2 of which, of course, are on this call today. As Jean mentioned, there are 10 ITCs within the local SBDC, the Small Business Development Center network. They're located, of course, around the state and provide that grassroots assistance to companies. As I mentioned, they're the great place to start if you're interested in developing an export plan or identifying access to capital within your community. The ITCs are really the place to go. And then when you have developed that export plan and you have a marketing strategy, that is when the ITCs typically refer companies to us so that we can help you execute that export plan. Of course, we work very closely with our federal partners as well, U.S. Department of Commerce, which Dan, of course, represents and who you'll hear from shortly, as well as XM Bank and SBA, many international chambers and other economic development organizations like the Naperville Chamber, of course, and lots of different trade and industry associations and local and foreign governments. Our goal is, of course, to connect companies with all the resources they need to be successful, and we have a track record of making this happen for over 50 years. Some of our foreign posts have actually been around since the state started opening offices, Brussels being the longest standing office and being with the state for over 50 years. On the next slide, you'll see all of the different resources, of course, that are available to companies and organizations. We can help provide market intelligence, distributor, agent, and partner searches, customized business-to-business matchmaking. We actually lead a number of trade missions throughout the year, both hosting industry trade shows at key events, as well as leading trade missions to key markets. We provide pre-trade show company promotion as well as logistical support, help identify good partners while you're at these various trade shows and trade missions. We'll do promotion of Illinois product and services to foreign customers, and of course play a significant role with foreign government advocacy. And aside from counseling and technical assistance that I've mentioned, OTI offers financial assistance to qualified companies through the ISTEP program. So on the next slide, you'll see program eligibility and resources that exist to Illinois exporters, include, of course, using the funds to attend our OTI-led group trade missions, because we know that we can't lead a mission to every country in the world or participate in every trade show in the world. The program also allows companies to select missions, markets, or trade shows of their choosing and apply for what's called the Individual Foreign Market Sales Mission Program. We also provide dollars for business-to-business matchmaking. So if you're looking for a distributor or agent, and if we are unable to provide those resources through our foreign office, you can use the funds to either work with the U.S. Department of Commerce or with third-party vendors to help identify a pre-vetted distributor or agent to help you sell your product. The program can also support your website localization work, e-commerce, and achieving product compliance. It is a cost-sharing program in order to help reduce your financial risks associated with exporting, of course. You can apply for up to $27,000 per year in reimbursements. The program itself is funded in part through an SBA grant that the state of Illinois applies for on an annual basis. And we actually just received nearly $1 million this year to deploy directly to Illinois companies. So definitely encourage everyone who might be interested in this program to reach out to us directly or to one of your local ITCs or other partners for more information on that. The next slide breaks out the program a little bit further. I won't go through all of the details, but really just wanted to highlight that given we have the need, of course, to social distance, and we haven't been able to lead missions live in quite a while, the office is really focusing on bringing companies to virtual trade shows or trade missions. So you can certainly use all of these resources for any of the virtual platforms that may be available so that you can continue to grow your global footprint. The first sort of category, which is, if we can go back one slide, is that center column talking about the group trade missions. We typically lead 12 to 15 missions annually and bring an average of 8 to 10 companies on any given mission. Right now, as I mentioned, we are leading virtual trade shows and trade missions, and we are actually, given that is a virtual platform, we've doubled the allotment for companies, so there's more opportunities to participate in some of these offerings. Companies can get travel reimbursed through the group trade missions, and they would typically receive trade show booths and market assistance while there. The second, of course, as I mentioned, was the individual foreign market sales mission program. So similarly, companies can apply for reimbursements for market intelligence, trade show participation, and distributor partner searches. And then the third has to do, of course, with our website localization and search engine optimization, which right now is so important, as Jean also mentioned previously. And given that importance, we've actually raised the ceiling and doubled the reimbursement to $6,000 for eligible companies. On the next slide, you'll see eligibility for the program is quite simple. Established Illinois companies that have been in business for at least a year, have fewer than 500 employees, and essentially you have an export plan. The program does require companies to have a product or service that contains at least 51% US content and 25% Illinois content. And have a sound export strategy. The next slide. Okay, so I'll go ahead and end here. Happy to take any questions. Here's my contact information. We look forward to working with all of you to help you sell your products abroad, and wish you well in your journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Margo. That was grand. Our next speaker is Dan Kim, who is a senior international trade specialist with the U.S. Department of Commerce, U.S. Commercial Service in Chicago. He covers the advanced manufacturing, automotive parts, services, equipment, railroad equipment, logistics services, and plastics industry sectors, as well as the Asian region for the Chicago office. As an international trade specialist, Dan offers customized export counseling to companies who wish to increase their exports and foster their international expansion efforts. Prior to joining the Commerce Department, Dan worked for the Korea Trade Promotion Investment Agency. There he specialized in connecting international small and medium enterprises to major corporations with extensive experience in automotive, commercial, pharmaceuticals, medical, and industrial applications. Dan, the floor is yours.
Oh, Richard, thank you for that introduction. And I'm so glad to be here on the same panel with so many different partners. As Richard said, my name is Dan Kim, and I'm a senior international trade specialist with the U.S. Commercial Service. There's a lot of information on the following slides. So if you feel you missed anything, don't worry, as I will make copies of the presentation available. It's recorded, and I'm also available for questions. The U.S. Commercial Service is an export promotion agency of the International Trade Administration. The U.S. Commercial Service is one of 3 divisions within the International Trade Administration. The other 2 are Enforcement and Compliance, which is Defensive Trade, and Industry Analysis, which is industry-focused offices that work closely with industry associations, regulations, and trade policy. While all 3 units of ITA work with clients, we are unique in that we provide export assistance services leveraging offices in foreign countries. So why is this important? Why do exports matter? More than 70% of the world's purchasing power is outside the United States. If the rest of the world is out there competing, you should be as well. Export promotion programs in countries around the world have significant funding and staffing to provide assistance and services to their local businesses. Less than 5% of US SMEs export, small and medium-sized enterprises, businesses, and of those that do, 58% sell to just one market. As you can see, it's safe to say that we have a lot of room for growth. So we at the U.S. Commercial Service work to fill that space, and here's how. Our mission at the U.S. Commercial Service is to increase exports of U.S. products and services abroad to create jobs in the United States. All U.S. companies qualify for our free counseling services, and we also have fee-based services as well. Primarily, we work with U.S. manufacturers, small and medium-sized businesses, with over 80% of our clients considering themselves SMEs. The vast majority of the companies we work with do consider themselves export ready. And a lot of times, if you need more assistance putting together an export plan or just starting to begin to export, we definitely recommend you connect with your local SBDCs, as Jean covered earlier. Overseas, we're part of U.S. embassies and consulates worldwide. In markets where U.S. businesses need us most, located across the United States and in U.S. embassies and consulates in over 75 countries, our global network of trade professionals helps U.S. businesses succeed in markets around the world. The U.S. Commercial Service is where you are and where you want to be. So this map shows where we have overseas commercial service offices staffed by local specialists. Many of these local specialists have been with commercial service 10, 15, 20 years, and they act as our boots on the ground in country to help you find potential partners, protect you from any harm, and look out for U.S. interests. You can look at this map as potential markets where we have actual people to help you export your products and find you partners. The other important component of the commercial service is me, your local trade specialist. I am from the local Chicago office. On the last slide, you'll see a list of the staff in Chicago and what type of industry coverage we have and who you can contact to reach these markets. But we act as your local account managers. So instead of going to each of these markets directly, you contact me and we will help you connect with each of these foreign markets. We are your single point of contact for exports. As trade specialists, we work with clients on a number of export-related issues, ranging from sales and marketing to market research, business matchmaking, and connecting you to finance and export compliance specialists. We have access to a multitude of tools and resources that can help you find potential partners in country to influence trade policies such as tariffs that might make it cost prohibitive for U.S. companies to export to some countries. I always say, if I can't directly assist you, I probably know someone who can, and I will connect you with them. One of our most frequent requests is for market research. The International Trade Administration has several databases that enable us trade specialists to provide market analysis based on economic indicators and additional variables that are important for your consumer market, your target market in those foreign countries. We also provide top market reports on the best markets for U.S. products, so you can target which country you want to go to, as well as something called country commercial guides, which give a top-down overview of countries and some of the opportunities, customs, as well as barriers that might exist for U.S. companies doing business in those countries. Many of these reports are written by our trade specialists in country, giving firsthand experiences and data. You may find many of these reports on our new website, trade.gov. Business matchmaking is also one of the key services we provide U.S. companies. And I'll go over a specific example of one on the next slide. But this is just a snapshot of what we can do. And I, as your local trade specialist, acts as your jumping off point for these services. So for a specific example, one of the most frequently requested services that we do is a Go Key matchmaking service. Now in the day of COVID and telework, we have transitioned to something very similar called an international partner search with virtual introductions, but it operates in the same way. If a client comes to us and is at the point where they are ready to export, it's our job to link them with foreign buyers or partners. Through this service, our clients tell us what type of partner they're looking for overseas, whether it be a distributor, a sales agent, or end users. We have you fill out an intake form, and they'll go through basic questions about your business and who you're targeting and what you're trying to accomplish in market. We then relay this information to our overseas colleagues. They will schedule appointments for your company with pre-qualified, vetted foreign partners and set up these virtual meetings. The cost for this service is a fraction of what you would pay in the private sector, with an international partner search costing $750 for a vetted list of potential partners as a small business. There's also grants available that will in most cases cover the cost of these services, such as iStep, which Margo covered earlier from the state of Illinois. Ultimately, our job is to help you as U.S. manufacturers and companies find and leverage business opportunities overseas. And we have real impact on the companies that do work with us, as you can see on this brief infographic. So with responsibilities in our office are split up by industry. And you can contact anyone here for your respective industry. These slides will also be made available, so feel free to reach out to any of us directly or to reach out to me and feel free to ask any questions. And I could help you to find the right person too as well. Also, if you have any general exporting questions, feel free to contact me, and I'll be happy to refer you out to one of the partners that spoke earlier that might be able to better accommodate the needs that you have or meet the needs that you have. We work very closely with our partners, including several that can provide export finance assistance, either in the way through grants such as iStep, or from the state like Margo said earlier, as well as financing options from our close partners, Export-Import Bank and the Small Business Administration. If you have any specific questions, I'll be more than happy to connect you with either Jan or Michael from the SBA and Export-Import Bank. The U.S. Commercial Service provides continuity and resources for all companies and works to provide a complete export resource working together with our partners. And at the end of the day, we are here for you as a resource. And thank you for having me on today. With that, I'd like to turn it back over to Richard.
Thank you, Dan. That was great. A couple things I think need emphasis. One is the value of the Gold Key. The Gold Key service, I remember when it started about 25 years ago, and it has grown and become an extremely professional service at rock bottom rate. You just can't get that kind of service from the private sector. Also, the individual company profiles is a service where you can vet your customers, make sure you know who you're doing business with. And the subcontractor for that is a member of the International Trade Association of Greater Chicago, Louise Kern. And Louise will be doing a webinar for us on March the 18th, which you are all welcome to attend. But she is an absolute master of helping people prevent scams and what she calls compliance flim-flams. So look for that. Our final speaker is Alex Sonnefrank. Alex is the Affinity and Partnerships Manager at the American World Trade Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber has partnered with the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce to provide documentation solutions. Alex has a background in export digitization and process streamlining solutions. Alex, the floor is yours.
Fantastic. So let me just pop things up on my side. Okay, fantastic. So today we're going to focus a little bit more narrowly with what I'm presenting. It's going to be specifically around certificate of origin and generally other export certificates that might need to be processed. So I think some of the other presentations were more focused on how do you get started, how do you start getting those customers, how do you start making money. But after that, you're going to have other barriers in place. You're going to have documents you need to prepare. You're going to need to clear customs. You're going to need to comply with a letter of credit. You're going to need to do quite a bit And one thing that I think is really important and one kind of positive thing about getting into export is you have the opportunity to start on the right foot, right? To make sure that what you're doing is in line with standards today, and more than anything, to make sure whatever process you're putting in place is going to be future-proof. So because in some way you're associated and connected to the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce, it essentially allows you to work alongside us as well, in order to have documents issued by the American World Trade Chamber of Commerce. So essentially, what is a certificate of origin? A lot of you may have done small scale exporting so far, so maybe to Canada and Mexico, where the actual process of going through customs clearance is a lot more simple. But if you're exporting outside of those two areas that aren't covered, you're going outside of what's covered by the USMCA agreement, you're going to encounter bigger barriers and bigger hurdles to actually get customs cleared. And one of the best things you can do is make sure that your cover letter to all of your supporting documentation is accurate and professional. And that's fundamentally what a certificate of origin is. It's essentially the cover letter to all of the other material that's going to be supported, presented to customs. Now, this document often needs to be stamped, signed, and issued by a Chamber of Commerce. There's some specific country requirements and rules as well that we're going to very briefly touch on, but just know that one of the kind of main focuses for us is to make sure that you're getting that quality product that customers will be familiar with, and it's going to be able to move the shipment through in general much, much faster. So essentially who we are, we're, again, the document processing partner for the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce, but we're also the only US chamber to actually be accredited by the International Chamber of Commerce. Hopefully you've seen the term Incoterms so far, but they're actually the body that sets the Incoterm standards. They set guidelines around certificates of origin as well. They're heavily involved in banking regulations, so they're one of the kind of foremost bodies in international trade and creating standards and guidelines. So essentially we're the only chamber accredited by them, meaning that air stamp and air seal that goes against the document has that additional recognition because we're able to promote and designate the fact that we're actually accredited by the International Chamber. In addition to that, we're also the US delegate to the World Chamber Federation Certificate of Origin Council. That essentially means that when things are changing, we oftentimes are the first people to know about it. And one of the focuses for us as an organization is to pass that knowledge and pass that information on to you to make sure that whatever you're doing is going to get cleared by customs so that you're informed what specifically they're looking for against the documents. So when we get the documents that you'll be preparing, we're able to look at them and provide that feedback if we think there's going to be some kind of complication or some kind of challenge actually getting it cleared by customs. And I always like to touch on general trends that we're seeing around documentation. There's an obvious shift to digitization that's really accelerated in the past year. The International Chamber actually issued their own publication on the subject recently that I've got some quotes from here. Specifically, this has been accelerated, obviously, by COVID, unfortunately. It's led to a lot of new fraud attempts, not all of which have been caught, but we've seen a lot of dramatic increases in fraud. And so that's something that we've experienced personally, that we've tackled, but it's something that's also been communicated to us by customs officials around the world, that they're seeing more challenges, more attempts to impersonate other companies, and more effort to impersonate different countries of origin as well. So more and more frequently, we're seeing a push towards some form of verification against the document. And that push for verification hasn't been consistent. The other trends we've essentially seen, we know that in Russia, they're wanting to go against the International Chamber of Commerce website to do the verification. We're seeing in India, requests for verification via QR codes against the document. Qatar Customs seems to really want to be able to pull up a full draft version of the document. And while all that's happening, we're also seeing pushes from the World Customs Federation to standardize things, kind of paradoxically compared to everything else. And of course, we have the International Chamber of Commerce continuing to promote digitization as one avenue to both prevent fraud, but also to increase and streamline the process on the other side. In terms of where we're at currently with electronic processing and where we're at today with digitization in general, I have what I think is a really powerful quote from the trade facilitation specialist at the China Council for Promotion of International Trade, essentially saying clearly every single certificate we issue is done electronically. All 4,100% of those are issued electronically from start to finish. That means electronically submitted, electronically stamped, and electronically returned back to the client. So it's important to understand that when we talk about digitization, that we recognize kind of where the US is in that process as well. We saw just a moment ago that the US tends to be farther behind other countries in terms of the amount of its economy that's coming from international trade and international sales. But another barrier to that is the fact that in the US, we tend to be using outdated technology. So the idea of electronic processing for a certificate of origin might seem new to a lot of people here. And for most American companies, that is the case. It's still a very small minority that are doing things electronically. But in China, we're seeing 100% digitization. And across Europe, they've been doing electronic issuance of these documents for the past 2 decades. Especially if you're getting into export, you want to make sure that you're using whatever the latest technology is. In this case, I don't even know if I'd say electronic issuance for certificates of origin is the latest technology, but it is the case that it's become more and more common. I would imagine your importer would expect to be able to work with electronic documents. One challenge we see quite often with exporters is that if they'll basically get started working with letters of credit, 75% of the time, those letters of credit get rejected on the first submission. So that leads to redoing documents, leads to resubmitting files, leads to a whole long process to try and get everything fixed and get everything cleared by the bank so they can actually get paid, which obviously we don't want to worry about. Whereas moving to digitization means you're looking at minutes instead of days to get a lot of these things fixed, get a lot of these things updated, and ultimately make sure that you get paid. I want to focus on the actual certificate of origin as well for a moment. I know I highlighted earlier some of the specific country requirements and some of the challenges that we're seeing there. So what we have here on the right-hand side is our sample certificate of origin. I've kind of blown up to highlight a couple of really key components against it. First of all, again, this is the cover letter to your other supporting documents. I know if you're shipping to Canada, you just have a little statement right there on the document, and you don't have necessarily a full form page. But for this is going to be the first document that gets looked at by a customs official. So when we've talked to people from China, they say, we like your form. When they do it that way, when it looks professional, we don't necessarily put the same amount of effort into scrutinizing every long document after that. And in terms of the requirements based on those different countries that might want different methods of verifying, we actually do we actually have against the document 3 different ways to verify things. One is through that International Chamber of Commerce website. So again, because we're accredited, it means you'll be able to have your customs officials, your importers, and everyone else confirm that, yes, this was actually issued by an accredited chamber in the United States, and it was issued to the person that's presenting it to me today. We have 2 other methods as well. One is, of course, that QR code, which I think is becoming more and more common for customs offices to look for that, to actually feed data into their systems directly. And then the other one is, of course, that certificateoforigin.com address, where you're essentially able to go there, type in that code that goes against each of the documents, and pull up a copy version of the document. Now, with those 3 methods combined, it essentially covers every possible scenario and every possible need on your side to make sure that customs is going to accept the document. But even more than that, I know we've touched on some aspects of fraud so far. One of the things you want to ensure that you're safe from and you're actually covered by is what happens when your importer tries to then resell the product within the US. And we've seen an increase in situations where maybe, you know, a grade 2 product is sold to someone, their documents are tweaked afterwards so the importer can sell it as a grade 1 product. Having methods to actually verify the documents essentially keeps everyone honest in that process. And for those scenarios that we have encountered, having a certificate of origin that we can go to a website and easily confirm this is what they said was in the shipment has not only helped alleviate any kind of concerns, but it also really helped solve those sorts of issues as they come up very, very quickly. Now, I think I've already kind of touched on some of the general benefits, right? But just to really put it clearly, right now, if you're getting certificates processed, or even if you're looking at exporting, you don't want to be driving down to the chamber, waiting for someone there to actually find the wet stamp, melting the wax, or finding the ink and then rubbing that against the document. So you can hand it back, only to then realize that you've made some kind of typo, and in order to actually get paid, you're going to have to now do it again and get back in the car and drive back out in the blistering cold to get it finished, right? So everything you're going to be able to do, you're going to be able to do from your desk, right? So you'll be able to submit it. You're going to get back a document that's been electronically stamped. I wouldn't expect many of you have systems in place to do electronic presentation yet. And I think it's something that every exporter should be considering as they get started. But ultimately, you'll be able to just print it out and put it with all of your other documents as well. It's a full web-based system. We do love doing one-on-one training sessions as well. So if you are a little bit intimidated about getting started, you can basically just reach out to Reba at the chamber or follow up in some way, and we'll be able to get something scheduled. So we'll be able to kind of walk you through that first submission and make sure you feel comfortable. Again, there's a big focus on compliance as well, ensuring that your system's future-proof so that no matter what new regulations come up, if we need to make that amendment to the document, if we need to put something else against it, or if we need to provide feedback to you about what needs to be adjusted, you can rest assured that that's going to be the case. And of course, more than anything, it's a fast and secure process. It's very quick for us because we do have quite a few dedicated staff here reviewing these documents. And that security component that reflects both the data that's entered against it, making sure that's stored in a secure way, but also represents that security feature against the actual material document itself to ensure that, again, everyone stays honest across the process. And while I focus on certificates of origin, that is the bulk of what we ultimately issue, we do regularly see requests for commercial invoices. We're seeing more specific fringe cases where we'll be the party involved for certificates of free sale issuance as well. Oftentimes you may be getting those from the FDA or the state equivalent body, but there are actually more and more cases where we're getting requests because it's outside of their purview. And in general, there may be other documents as well that your importer just wants to see stamped. It's important to kind of understand that highlighting that you have a relationship with the Chamber of Commerce is an important step for them to actually legitimize you as a business. And so while you should have your own concerns about making sure you're working with genuine, legitimate companies, understand they've got those same concerns about you, and they want to make sure that they know that who they're working with is genuine and legitimate. And of course, one final note is always be aware of what exactly it is that you're being requested to have done. If you're shipping to Egypt or Qatar or Dubai, you know, you're doing one of your first shipments there, it's not uncommon for there to be legalization requests as well, and those do get stipulated oftentimes in the agreement that you're going to set up with the importer. But unfortunately, we see a lot of people who see that requirement, don't quite know what it means, and then move past it before they realize actually they need to get through the embassy. That's going to take a couple of weeks to get done, and they're not going to get paid until it's finished. So always be familiar with what specifically you're being requested of. There's oftentimes a requirement, and especially within those Middle East countries, to actually go through additional steps and have the embassy ultimately issue the document. And finally, in order to get started, there's a really simple registration form. There's no cost to register and get set up. So even if you don't have a need right now, I encourage all of you to actually go through that process to get set up so that you're ready when that need arises. I believe that link is going to be put in the chat either after this presentation wraps up or at some point later. So if you want to, you can jump in and get registered. There's really a simple registration form that we just need one person at the company to complete. That lets us set up the account and essentially get you started from there. And that is it for me then. I'll pass it back to you, Richard.
Well, thank you, Alex. That was wonderful. A couple of comments you made about getting started correctly, getting the right documentation, getting it right. I cannot emphasize enough how important that is, because the costs of non-compliance come in various forms. One is if you're exporting something you shouldn't, in other words, you haven't complied and gotten an export license, the cost is very high, both to the company and to you individually. We're talking tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. The cost of getting the documentation wrong at the border is that your product doesn't get in and you've got to pay storage costs, and there are all kinds of hassles with that. And so there's a real monetary penalty for being in non-compliance. And the certificates of origin have come a long way in the last 20 years, when they were pretty much all handwritten, and the electronic COs now are absolutely terrific and will save you time and money and exasperation and worry. So I encourage that. Alex also mentioned INCO terms, international commercial terms. Many of you are familiar with FOB. It does not mean fresh off the boat. And CIF does not mean cash and fist. But it's important to get these terms right, because they control who owns the product, who's responsible for it, and who pays for it at what point in time. And it's the transfer of risk. And what you're trying to do as an exporter is minimize your risk, and so it pays to pay attention to these things. So thank you, Alex. That was really great.
Great.
Before we start taking questions, I want to put in a plug for my own organization, the International Trade Association of Greater Chicago. We are a large network. I tell people we're like Noah's Ark. I've got two of every kind. So if, it's everything from importers and exporters of products and all kinds of products to all of the service providers, and that includes freight forwarders and customs brokers and attorneys, accountants who are familiar with it, immigration attorneys. And so we're easy to join, we're low cost. The other thing we do, and I don't know if I can share my screen, but I'm going to try. I guess I can't. We publish every Friday the Illinois International Business Calendar. And it lists pretty much all of the, well, it's now Midwest events going on. And as you can imagine, these are almost all webinars now. There's no in-person meetings. But it's a great resource. It covers every conceivable product and every conceivable aspect of international commerce. A lot of the webinars are free or very low cost. And so if you are at all interested in receiving these, send an email to info@itagc.org, and I'll make sure you're on the list. So with that, let's turn to questions and maybe some answers.
Awesome. Yes, great job, everyone. I am amazed at the caliber of all the panelists and also Richard. That was a great presentation. So just drop your questions in the chat box. And I just wanted to acknowledge just a couple of things that I failed to mention in the beginning. One is this these type of events is sponsored by our Business Works Committee, which is like the legislative arm of our chamber. And we have a couple people that I've seen, if they're still on, John Noblock, Vasavi Chaka, and Sean LaFortune. If they're still on, they're members of our Business Works, and thanks for those guys joining us. And also we had, let me check and see, the mayor, Mayor Steve Chirico was on for the bulk of the presentation, and unfortunately I think looks like he's jumped off, but it was great to have him as part of the as our elected official and the leader of Naperville. So just pop in any questions that you have. One question that I wanted to ask, most all this export is looking at products, but I think could someone speak to how to connect with a market like for your services that's not product based? Could anyone speak to that? Because I know we have a lot of service providers in our area.
Dan,
Yeah, so I could speak. Oh, I can speak
go
a little
ahead,
bit
Dan.
about services. So services is definitely a category that we covered here at the U.S. Commercial Service. We help franchising clients find potential franchisees in foreign markets. So that's one area where we assist, as well as financial services, fintech. We're working with currently someone who does like commodities trading, who's trying to find potential investors. Now that's not normally an area that we do work in, but we do work in that area. So so that's one. So franchising, commodities trading, what else? We cover a wide range of industries that under the services umbrella. So, you know, if you're being paid for your services overseas by a foreign buyer, then that's export. You know, as long as it's coming back to the U.S., that's export, and that's definitely an area where we can help.
Well, there are also things like architectural and engineering services.
That's right. Architectural engineering is big.
Very big. And the Commerce Department has been hosting a series of webinars off the top of my head on Dubai, the UAE. Some of the Middle East countries are funding huge infrastructure programs, and they're eager to get U.S. participation. And so that's certainly a way to enter the market. Those things are on our calendar, I'm sure.
Richard, if I can add also just to that point alone, Illinois typically has a booth at Arab Health in the UAE, and we participate in that on an annual basis. Some of the companies that have actually traveled with us in past years are service providers. And really what we're doing is looking to connect them with local government partners so that they can either help with turnkey kind of operations or help to basically fill the gaps where some of those, you know, services are really, you know, looking for American expertise.
Sure, and software.
Yes, exactly.
No, that's absolutely right.
From our end,
that's a good point.
Richard, if I may add, so from our end, so doing market research for service provider is sometimes can be a little bit challenging, but we do help with client. Like we're currently working with a client trying to, they're fintech, they're trying to expand to Africa. So it's still, there's like possibility out there. And we often rely on, like, for example, U.S. Commercial Service with an OTI for a lot of in-market information, but on the database, you know, side, we can still, you know, knock around the bush and try to be creative, find the information the company needs.
Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly.
Yeah, even in the cases of, let's say, the city of Naperville wants to promote itself as a destination for tourism or as a destination for, you know, we have a very robust travel and tourism team, which, you know, right now it's difficult, of course. But, you know, moving forward, if that's something you want to advertise Naperville as a destination in overseas magazines or in foreign airlines, definitely that's something we can help with too as well.
Yeah, Dan, to that point also, I think another area that this team can certainly help You know, an EDO like Naperville, I can give you an example. We worked with Rockford, who was really developing their aerospace cluster many years ago, and partnered with them at the Paris Air Show. So they actually recruited a number of companies from the Rockford area to participate in the air show with us. So not only were they building brand awareness for these companies, but also we had members of the chamber that came and traveled with us to the trade event, and we scheduled some meetings for them as they were actually looking to also attract foreign investment and build that ecosystem. So it was kind of a win-win, and another way, I guess, a good example of how we would work with the local economic development organizations.
Wow, that's exciting. Oh, okay. So, okay, good. Very good. And that is excellent information. Thanks so much. So let's see if we have please drop any questions in the chat, or if anyone wants to just jump in with a question or comment, you're welcome. We've got a few more minutes left. So please jump in with your questions. And something else that I would throw out to the attendants, I just think this was a wealth of information, and I would like to get an idea of what we can offer, what specific information in the future we could offer to meet your needs as you explore moving your markets internationally. So please either drop that in the chat or pop in and pop on and communicate that to us. So one other, I think Margo, you just addressed this, but just to be clear, so if is there a location where someone can go and find, like, well, I guess it's kind of a not issue until we're open to more international travel, but a list of like what the upcoming trade missions, what industry, what categories, and then figure out if you're a fit to that. Is that out there?
Yeah, we kind of do it two ways. If a company doesn't really know which market they want to pursue, they would work with Jean or someone from the SBDC network to kind of develop that export plan. Once they do have that plan, or if, let's say, they already know which trade show they want to go to, we can help, either provide logistics support or actually financial support through the iStep program to get that company to that market. As far as a list, yes, usually we publicize and we issue a press release with the list of the trade shows that we lead delegations to. Of course, everything is now virtual, and given all of the changes with trade show organizers lately, as soon as we get a list ready for print, they go and change the dates on us again. So we have a constantly changing list. We're hoping to actually send something out here over the next couple of weeks, just kind of announcing some of the events that we will be participating in and recruiting for. Obviously, as Richard pointed out, and everybody I think here on the call realizes, we'll be operating on a virtual platform for a little while longer, but we do hope that some of the shows that have rescheduled for the fall as live venue events will actually take place, and we'll be able to send some delegations there.
Well, that's even, I think, in some ways more exciting, because you wouldn't have to coordinate the travel. You could have access to the information without the travel expense and the
right. This is a great time for companies, since they can't travel, to really start identifying markets that they're interested in pursuing to grow their exports, really start looking at potential distributors, agents, or partners. And that is something that, this group here on the call can definitely help arrange, so that when things do open up and they can actually get on a plane and start traveling again and meeting with these potential partners or distributors or agents, they've already developed a relationship. So they've got a leg up for sure.
Awesome. So Sean, were you going to say something? Sean LaFortune, were you going to say something?
I'd like to add to what Margo just said about this is a great time to do market research. You can't do too much. You absolutely can't do too much. And the more you do, the better off you're going to be, and the better prepared you're going to be. The history is littered with companies that didn't do their research And I'm always fond of the example of General Motors trying to sell the Nova in South America. You know, where Nova means doesn't go. And this is not a little company, mind you. This was General Motors. So there's lots of those kinds of examples that litter the international landscape. And of course, we carry on the calendar, as soon as we get events from Margo, we put them on the calendar. The other thing I was going to say was that there are other challenges as well. My livestock people were getting ready to go to a trade show in Australia in June. And Australia just announced that they weren't allowing any international travelers in. So end of trade show. And there are going to be countries like that where before you travel, you better make sure you can get in the country. And, you know, if you're going and expecting to go to a trade show the next day, but the country has a 2-week quarantine requirement, you might want to rethink your strategy. So, yep.
Very good. I have never heard that about General Motors.
Oh, yeah.
That's fascinating.
Well, you know, General Mills, another kind of large company, some years ago thought that what the Japanese housewife really needed was a cake mix that she could whip up in her rice cooker. And anybody who's ever been to Japan will understand that Japan's one of those countries where a rice cooker has been around for 1,000 years, and it has never, ever been considered for doing anything other than cooking rice. And of course, product rollouts in Japan are very expensive, and Pillsbury learned a very expensive lesson. And it took about a month, and they had no sales. So,
I think following what Richard just mentioned, they actually point out, you know, localization, the importance of localization.
Yes,
so
yes.
we do have a lot of clients that they're using this time to run their website localization project. And like Margo just mentioned, the ISTEP grant now actually double the maximum reimbursement cap. So that's really a great opportunity because websites right now is essentially the kind of like doormat for your new client to get to know your business, know your product. So that's kind of like echo to what Richard and Margo say. It's a perfect time to do that.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Very, very fascinating. That is great information. So last chance, everyone, to ask any final questions to Richard or our other panelists. And any other questions, pop it in the chat or just pop on, take yourself off mute and ask the question. Any questions? Well, any final words of wisdom, anyone?
I'd sort of like to float the concept of if people are interested in doing more programs like this that kind of get further into such things as market research, export financing, credit risk insurance. There are all sorts of topics that we could explore for people who are just getting into the market.
That would be great. I look forward to this because I think this has been fascinating, and I think this is just a golden opportunity for our members. Okay, so we have one. I think we have a question that just. There's someone that said I would be interested in deeper dive in webinars. Okay, so wanted to be added to the list. That's great.
And send me an email at info@itatgc.org, and I'll make sure you get the calendar, which has the full range of beginner to super expert topics covered.
Awesome. That is great. Well, we will end there. I think we're close to the end of our time. I want to thank you so much, everyone. I think I was just like drinking from a fire hose. Great information. So grateful to all you panelists. And Kaylin, are you, let's see, were you going to say a few end words or?
No, I just wanted to say thank you all so much. This has been really enjoyable and interesting, and I'm grateful to have all of you as a resource. So thank you so much. And I'm glad that this is recorded so that we can continue to share this with our other members as well. And thank you all for your information, and everything in the chat has been great to follow along with as well.
Great, and I just put my contact information in to follow up with any questions or requests for more specific information that you're looking for. And thank you all so much. This has been an amazing event. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the day, and enjoy the sun and the warm.
Yeah, get outside.
We're above
40s.
freezing. We're on the right track. Okay, take care.
Thank
everyone.
you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
Dan. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Margo.
Bye-bye. Thank you. You guys did a great job.